Hello once again and welcome to Women in the Making. Simone Biles said, "I'd rather regret the risks that didn't work out than the chances I didn't take at all." If you're tired of limitations, our guest today is here to ignite the fire within. Skating through stereotypes, she shows the world what true strength looks like. She overcame the adversities of bullying and mistrust, paving her path to success at a young age. Get ready to lace up the rise of a remarkable coach, Mel Harrow. Mel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
I love to start this first segment by your early days, your childhood, where everything began. I know you had a big family. Can you walk us through how your childhood looked like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was the oldest of four. So I have three younger sisters and
all girls.
All girls in the house. My parents were super supportive and always really there for all four of us. I mean, I remember we were always having fun, a little competitive sibling rivalry as we grew up. But I still am very close with my siblings and my whole family really now. We had a lot of fun growing up.
That's wonderful. 4 girls in one household. I'm
Yes.
sure that was a loud household.
It was a loud household. It was always busy. Like we were always running around doing so many different activities. And I just really remember too, my parents would always encourage us. Like, for example, they didn't know anything about ice hockey. And when I said, "Oh, I want to try this sport," they were like, "Okay, we'll figure this out." And then the rest of my siblings played soccer, lacrosse, hockey. I mean, we were a full sports household.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it sounds like a full bang on
Yeah.
sports household. I know sport was a big part of my life, and I know the strength, the drive, the determination, and the discipline that it
Yes.
brings to somebody when they actually start loving and playing that actual sport. So I'm so glad you're in that expertise and that field. Tell us about how you eventually landed up into ice hockey, because as kids and as parents, we keep helping our child, evolve and learning from different sports. How did this arrive for you?
Yeah, so I started, doing everything cross country, soccer through school, played all those different sports through each season. And all of a sudden, when I was like 7 years old, I saw ice hockey on TV. And I was like, "Oh, that looks so cool. I want to play that." So I told my parents I wanted to play, and they found actually the rink up in Kirkland, just right over here, had programs and learn to skate programs. So they put me in like a learn to play and a learn to skate program and a beginner hockey program. And it kind of just took off from there. I ended up really sticking with it. There was just something so different about hockey from all the other sports that I was playing that I just wanted to keep coming back each year and each year. And I was really fortunate enough to find it and to be able to keep playing throughout high school and then college as well.
That's amazing. I'm glad that your parents stick to you
Yeah.
and you stick to the sport, because it's a very tough sport. Like, I don't think any sports, being in the sport industry is tough by itself, because you have to always stay competitive. You have to stay alert. You have to stay fierce, and, you cannot back out.
That's so true. I mean, you really have to, I think you nailed it. Staying fierce, staying on top of your game, like at all times, and really being pretty fearless, and not doubting yourself, I think is really huge, and something that I also learned through playing sports.
Mel, tell us about the challenges you faced as the only girl in a predominantly male-dominated sport. How did you deal with bullying and lack of trust from anyone while playing?
Yeah, hockey is definitely, unfortunately, still also heavily male dominated. And when I was growing up, like the first few teams that I was on, I was the only girl there. And I didn't really notice it right away until comments started being made. And I think too, as a 7-year-old, you don't really understand what's going on. But then when I started to get asked questions, "Why are you here?" from other kids, like, "Girls don't play hockey." Like, these were things that were just being said to me while I was waiting in line for drills.
Wow.
And I started to like have to think afterwards, like, I don't know, I'm just like, I want to play just like you. Like, we're all here to have fun and I love this. So it was really hard to start hearing those things practice after practice. And then there was kind of a big moment that was a make or break moment really for me while I was a kid playing. And one of my coaches actually held me back and wouldn't let me go out for my shift at the end of a game. And there was no trophy on the line, like no big wins. We were like 9 years old. There was
Right.
no reason to do that, and especially thinking as a coach now, looking back on that scenario. And so that really kind of broke me down a little bit and made me feel like, oh, maybe everyone's right. I don't belong here. And so that definitely broke my trust with some coaches and made me question, do I keep doing this? Is this worth it? And I had, like I mentioned earlier, a very supportive family, good friends around me, and they were like, don't let other people stop you from doing what you enjoy. And I'm so glad that I didn't give up and that I kept playing and that I didn't let other people stop me. I think for a while I used it for fuel too, to prove like, hey, I am a good player. I belong here just like you do.
Absolutely.
And so it was a big turning point though.
Yeah, and it's shocking, right? Because I understand you're a young girl then, and if your own coach does not support you, does not trust you, and you give your heart out to that game, you are going to feel overwhelmed with emotions. And sometimes I think as young girls or young boys, we are not able to actually convey that to our parents. And I'm so glad you did that, because if not, we wouldn't have been sitting here today.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm glad that you had that support system at home and your parents really were there for you and you trusted them. A lot of times kids trust their parents, but they're not able to openly share and they lack communication. So I think I've got a lesson here as a parent to make sure that my kids are able to openly speak about their thoughts, their processes, and what's going on in school and outside.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I do feel very fortunate, and I have no doubt that you are doing a wonderful job with your children.
Thank you. Tell me, what made you keep going forward despite so many challenges that you were going through as a young kid?
I think part of it was like my friends outside of the hockey world were always like, oh, this is so cool. You play hockey. Like no one else was doing it. And so it was something fun and different, and I stuck to it, and there's just really no better feeling than skating. Like I love that feeling of skating. And I started to find my people. So I started to find there was a girls team that I ended up joining and really started connecting with them and had some great coaches who on the flip side really pushed me and saw like, oh, you have some really good foundational skills. You should keep working on this. You should keep playing. And I was able to also still play on boys teams with people that I knew from before who were supportive. So it was learning to tune out some of the not so nice things and really just embrace the greatness that there was and keep reminding myself that like you're confident, you can do this, you are good at this sport, and even if I wasn't good, who cares, because you're enjoying it. Like that's what matters in the end.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And that support system is what we all need in our life.
Absolutely.
I've never played ice hockey. I've never even done normal skating. But when I look at anybody doing ice hockey, it's very nerve-wracking because it's a fast sport. And I'm sure you've lost your track in your motion. Did you face any injuries while playing the sport?
Yes. So I've had the like normal broken finger here and there, which I probably shouldn't brush off so lightly. But as you mentioned, hockey is a little bit of a tough, nerve-wracking sport. My worst injury, though, unfortunately, was in college where I injured my hip pretty poorly, and I had to have couple surgeries actually for it to really fully heal and to be able to move and play again. So that cut a little time out of my playing career. But on the other hand, if I didn't have those injuries and some of those setbacks, I wouldn't have learned what I enjoy on the career side in my life now.
Wow, that is very impressive.
Thanks.
To come back, bang on, and understand and not give up that these injuries are part of your life, right? Any sport has injuries, but the fighting spirit that you've showed us today, I think that means a lot for anybody who's watching. And you're already a coach. So young girls, young boys who are watching you today,
Thank
I
you.
hope they've learned a lesson that you don't have to go forcibly breaking bones,
No.
but that's part of your life. And if you do, just come back stronger.
Yeah, and I will just say that it's almost sometimes the mental part that's tougher than the physical rebuilding. And don't hesitate to reach out when you need help with any of it, because I always remind my players, if you're not mentally 100%, then you can't be physically 100%. So really take care of yourself, whether it's mental health, physical health, it's all connected.
I love that.
And I didn't reach out probably early enough, and I just hope that everyone, realizes that it's okay to ask for help when you're struggling through injuries, because it sometimes isn't just that physical piece.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Mel, at some point in your life, you decided that you wanted to be a coach. Can you tell us a little more on that decision that you made? And did your family support you through this journey?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I had an injury that impacted my playing career, but I realized I still wanted to stay involved in the game. And while I was in college and still kind of figuring out what was wrong with my hip, my coaches had me just doing simple things like tracking shots, watching our games, watching practice. So it was great to still be a part of the team and not feel totally isolated. But it also started to give me a little bit of an insight of, oh, there's this whole behind the scenes world that happens in sports. And as I was kind of watching games, watching practices, and picking up on things and sharing information with the coaches, one of the coaches was like, oh, you would actually be a great coach. Like, you should think about doing this. And it had never really occurred to me before. I wanted to either maybe work somewhere in sports, but wasn't totally set on anything yet. And so learning too that you could be this supportive role for student athletes and involved in the game really, really drew me to that idea. But it also helped to have the confidence of someone else saying like, hey, you should look at this. You do these couple things really well, and that's what it takes to be a coach.
Wow.
So that's how it started.
I was literally going to ask you, are you allowed to play the sport and be a coach? And I'm glad you answered that question, because, sometimes the word coach, especially I watch a lot of cricket, means that, oh, you've retired from the game. And that's when some people start becoming coaches. But it's not the same scenario here, which is amazing that you get to be part of both worlds. And can you highlight a specific achievement or a significant moment in your coaching career so far?
Yeah, I kind of have two, because once I was asked to coach a sport that I had never played. And so I got asked to coach lacrosse, be an assistant coach. And I was like, sure, like full transparency, I never played the sport. I can learn the rules and everything. And so getting asked to coach because I have other good coaching skills was a huge, like, just signal for me that I'm doing what I should be doing and enjoying it. And I think the other part is just when I connected with the UW women's hockey team and ended up in the role of the head coach there. I just love that community that we've created, and I'm so fortunate to work with all those student athletes that I'm just so grateful to be their coach and wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
I'm sure they are grateful that you are their coach, because coach is someone who takes you from ground down to ground up. And I remember my coach when I used to play basketball, she was rough and tough. Like, she would push us to play in the toughest of times and days. And I thought she never heard us, right? As girls, we have our challenges. She never heard us out. She never understood if I had a bad day, I had a tummy ache, I had my periods. She never understood that. And it was very hard for me while playing that sport to have a person that I could talk to. And I had to make sure my dad would sign a note forcibly that I could not play that day.
That's so hard.
Tell us a little more about how do you aspire the young female athletes as a coach right now?
I just try to do everything I can to encourage them to always use their voice, always ask questions, like be fearless, and to understand that, you might have some challenges and setbacks, but we're here to support you, whether it's maybe a challenge or setback in class or on the ice. It doesn't matter. Like your whole team, your coaching staff, this is why we're here. And so to always seek out help when you need it, whether it's you need to be connected to someone for an internship or to figure out how to knock down that door and get better ice time, like whatever it may be, just really encouraging them to use their voice and be fearless and give them that confidence. That's all I try to do because we need them and we need their voices as they continue to grow up.
I also feel like being a coach is so hard because you're there to empower these girls. You're there to support them. But there's also a time where you know that this student is not meant for that sport, right? But that student is passionate about it. How do you understand and how do you value what they bring and create a fine line between having a topic of discussion? So I would love to gather some information from you.
Yeah. I think that's a great question because I think all of us as coaches face hard conversations with our athletes. And there's some that we know how we're going to approach because it's much more cut and dry. And there's some where it's harder because maybe there's not a drive or a skill set there, but we see the passion, as you mentioned. And so it's creating an environment where everyone is welcome because they have that passion. So as you mentioned earlier too, building them from the bottom up. Like we have a very important role as coaches to take in our athletes and take them for who they are and embrace them. And so even if they might not have the greatest skill set, letting them know that it doesn't matter. What I value is that you're here, you're being vulnerable, putting yourself on the line in this scenario, and I just want you to work hard. That's all I'm asking is that every time you come out to practice is that you are going through the drills just as hard as you can and really just improving and sharing that love that you have for the sport because that's what's going to make hockey also more accepting to more people is just having everyone who comes in and welcoming them all in no matter their skill set and making sure that they do feel valued on the ice.
Wow, that was so inspiring. I love that. I wish I was playing the sport in my younger days and I would want to hire you as my coach. But that was very valuable.
Oh, thank you.
Mel, your workbook has been creating quite a buzz. Can you tell us more about it, how it originated from your Empower Her Hour sessions?
Yeah, so I actually
Yay!
brought the copy here today.
I love that.
Thank you. And so it first started with during the COVID-19 pandemic, trying to get creative with how to keep our student athletes engaged. They went from running around full speed to just nothing and being at home like we all did. And so working in a school setting and working in athletics in a school, we were like, we've got to figure out a way to support this group of kids and all of our kids really. And so I was like, well, maybe this is a unique time to go ahead and talk about things that all of us coaches are always like, oh, I wish we had 10 more minutes of practice to talk about. So I started forming these Empower Hour sessions with a few of my other coaches that I worked with and our sports teams. And it was an hour that we got together on Monday nights over Zoom. And we talked about everything from confidence building to what you want out of athletics to just how can you then also continue to empower others and to leadership, how to use your voice, all of that. So it was really fun because not only was it also just a way for us to connect with each other again, since we were used to seeing each other every day, but it was a great opportunity to talk about these intentional skills that especially young women need to realize that they have and not be afraid of being confident, being a leader, whether you're on the field, on the ice, off the ice, in the classroom, everywhere.
Wow. You have to show that book one more time.
Yeah, so it's a fun little fill-in workbook.
How cool is that?
Yeah, so we get to work on everything. There's motivational quotes
I
along
love
the
the
way.
font and the way you've put across everything.
Yeah.
365 athlete plan. Go get it.
Exactly. Go after it and do it.
Absolutely. Your work has made a significant impact on athletes because of this book. Share any success story or moments that somebody came up to you or they described how this helped shape their journey.
I think the biggest one is when I saw like younger student athletes, so like sophomores in high school, start to come out of their shell and realize that they could be leaders even though they weren't the seniors, right? We always think of the seniors as the kind of top of the leaders and of the top of the team, but seeing some of those younger student athletes like come up and be like, "Wait a minute. I think I can do this. I think I see myself as a leader," and starting to ask more questions about, "Hey, I know I'm younger, but how can I be a leader of the team?" So I think it's almost more in those little interactions of students coming up to me and saying things like that. And then one student athlete in particular who was able to then fully become really vulnerable with the coaches. And she went from kind of being a little more quiet into herself to sharing with the coaches when she was having a bad day or after a play, having a bad play and signaling that she needed to come off just to take a breath. And then she was good to go back in, and being able to also become a captain even with all of that going on because she was so
That is
vulnerable
lovely.
and was able to be confident in who she was. So that I think is a huge, huge takeaway.
That's a huge pat on your back
Thank
for
you.
doing and, even imagining doing something like that during COVID. A lot of us went into a nutshell. It was hard for people to come out, especially if you were a sports person.
Absolutely.
And because you're out there playing that sport every single day of your life. And here you are stuck in a house where, all you can probably do is a couple push-ups,
Yeah.
couple of things here and there. But to have a mentor and a trainee and a coach like you who can help them emotionally initially support that journey, I think that is very important because they can pick up physical aspect. But I think keeping the emotional build up alive is very important. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you so much.
You recently won an amazing award from Y Seattle. You were part of a beautiful nominees. And so firstly, congratulations.
Thank you.
Can you walk us through that journey?
Yes. So, one of my close friends, I found out, nominated me, and it was just so fun and wonderful to hear that just that your friends feel this great affinity for you. I mean, you kind of know it, but to hear that they've taken their time to do something like that is just I think it just like it really warms your heart for I don't know how else to say it. And then to see the like cast of women that I was a part of, oh my gosh, they're amazing. And just to be able to be mentioned in the same circle as them, they're doing such great work in all of their fields. Like it was so cool to be able to sit at the table with them at the Seattle Sports Commission breakfast and get to know them and their work a little bit more. So it was a little bit of a whirlwind when we got to the breakfast and I saw all of our names go up there, and then all of a sudden my video starts playing and I go through a process. I'm like, oh, that's me. Oh, I think I won. Okay. And then I get the tap on the shoulder that's like, all right, go up to the
To
stage
take the
now.
award.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, here we go. So it was so fun. And then I went on and worked like a whole day where we did our big event where we celebrated our volleyball and our soccer athletes. So it was a really fun overall day too.
Wow, congratulations again.
Thank you.
I mean, you worked hard for it, so you do deserve the accolades and you should accept them wisely.
Yes, I appreciate that.
I want to end this segment. I love to read quotes sometimes, and this is my own. To hang out with gritty people, seek those who share your desire for growth and perseverance. Surround yourself with individuals who challenge and motivate you to be your best self.
I love that.
And I guess people that you're hanging out with are the best. So keep doing the great work that you're doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you for allowing this time too.
Of course. Mel, you have been very vocal about promoting body positivity and focusing on nutrition and self-help. How is this topic so close to your heart?
I think realizing when I was injured, how important nutrition was because for a part of my recovery, I wasn't able to be active. I was on bed rest for about 6 weeks. And so having
It's a long
to
time.
really understand the importance of nutrition through that whole process and how food is fuel. Like if you want to get stronger and recover and then also compete, you need to fuel your body. And so making sure that every athlete understands that like this is a force and powerful and you should use it,
Yeah.
is really what's important, and that you need to be putting in what you're putting out. So what makes you feel good is what you should be eating. And you need to prepare yourself best for competition. And that might look different than the person sitting in the locker room next to you. And that's fine because we all have recognized that we're all different and we have differences. And that even comes down to how we fuel our bodies and how we push ourselves out in sport. And so really, it's just about doing whatever it takes to make you feel your best self out there.
Yeah. And, a lot of people that we hear do a lot of things that are artificial in nature. They're not close to the nature. So what do you want to say about that?
Yeah, I would say if you have questions about nutrition or are starting to hear about all different supplements to take, find a registered dietitian or doctor to talk to. I am not one, but I always encourage people to seek out professionals really to help them, because you do have to be careful about some of the things you're selecting and picking up in the grocery
There's just
store.
so much out
And
there.
there's so much out there, and then there's buzz about different things because of social media.
Yeah. Even the oils.
Yeah, so many.
Like they just keep evolving. And I'm like, I come from India. We use 2 oils in our house. Guess what? It's come back. It keeps coming back to those 2 oils that we used.
Be careful about what you're picking up and what you're catching on to. And if something seems a little off and maybe not so true, it probably is. So follow your instincts on that.
So looking ahead as a coach, as your future right now, playing ice hockey, what legacy do you want to leave behind as a coach and a mentor?
My biggest thing is that I hope no matter how you come to this sport, how you play for me or someone else that I've coached, is that I hope in 20 years from wherever you are now, you are either still playing the sport, coaching the sport, or love the sport. So I never want someone to fully exit the sport or have a bad experience. So I just hope that in some way that they're always still connected to ice hockey, because that just shows that we were able to put that passion out on our end. They felt it and received it and had a positive experience. It's all about leaving sport with a positive experience so that you can either pass it on or just share it with others.
I love that. And I think being unapologetically you creates a ripple effect of change. And people see that. They catch that from you and that energy and that vibe and that spirit. So you're doing that. You're taking it forward as a coach and a mentor. So I'm sure your legacy is going to be phenomenal.
We'll see what happens, but yes, I hope so. And thank you. I always just hope that I'm doing the best I can for them, and that they're receiving something out of it.
We are coming to the final segment, and it always makes me sad, but this is very exciting. Your journey has been fabulous, fantastic. But let's end with some burning questions. The first one is my favorite. Tell us a secret nobody knows about you.
I don't know if this is one that nobody knows about me, but this is one that's a fun one and that not a lot of people know. So my grandma and my grandpa are both deaf, and so I know sign language. Grew up learning sign language as a kid, and sometimes my siblings and I will sign across the room to each other. But yeah, growing up with that, it was something new and also a great language to learn.
Wow, I'm sure it's almost like you know another language, especially living in America.
Yeah.
And that's a sign language that a lot of people will not understand. So I guess that came as a benefit to you. And my next question is, did you ever felt like you wanted to give up on your career? You went through a lot of ups and downs, but tell us a moment or any story you would like to share.
Yeah, I think I definitely had some challenges then working in athletics as well. And there were just the little things of not being invited into the big closed door meetings with all the other men who were working in the industry. And that was always just kind of frustrating. And then that built on top of things like I was always usually like yelled at when I was working games because people didn't think that I was the person in charge of running the game management and the operations. Or I would be asked, oh, are you just the trainer? Like, who do I go to for this? And then, there was finally kind of a tipping point when I was starting to get really like accosted at a few different games. And I had a referee ask me if I was old enough to do my job.
Wow.
And that kind of was a moment of like, no one else is here also backing me up. And I just have to tell this guy, yes, I am. Here's the gym.
Yeah.
And we're not talking for the rest of the day. But that
I'm glad you decided just rest of the day. If I was you,
no.
Do not talk to me.
Exactly. So that had been building up with other little things, and it almost just made me want to not really be in the industry anymore. But after I took a breath and talked to my people that I mentioned, my support system, they were like, no. You don't let other people dictate things for you. You got to do your path. You got to do what's right, and don't let them take what you enjoy away from you.
Absolutely.
So.
It's not the valuable lessons that you're getting from people like that. And my last question, and I'm going to read this out. What steps do you think the sports industry needs to take to eliminate gender bias and provide equal opportunities for women?
That is a very important question that you're asking. I think there's several steps that need to be taken. So one, there needs to be women at the top level of every sports industry because only other women, especially women of diverse backgrounds, can understand the barriers to entry in sport and even getting the look to have the interview, let alone make their way up. And so I think that is something that needs to change. I think we're seeing a huge turn in media showing more women's sports, which is amazing. And I think that needs to continue so that younger women can see that they are welcome in this career space, that they are welcome on the court, on the field, on the ice to play, and that their play is valuable. So I think the more sponsorship money that can continue to go towards women's sports specifically is going to continue to put women's sports at the forefront and help us reach
Reduce
that gender
the gender
equity.
gap, gender bias.
Yes. Yeah.
I love that. I think that's a really valuable lesson for all of us because even when I did my research, the gender gap is huge and the gender bias, even in terms of getting sponsorships, is huge. Women do not get enough sponsorships and funding compared to male. So I think we need to close that. We need to close that now.
Absolutely. And whether we like it or not, money helps a lot. And
it does.
And so that funding going towards women athletes, women who work in sport, whether it's through, scholarships for degrees or paying interns in order to really see a career path, I think all of that makes a huge difference. And like you said, can close that gender gap.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mel, for coming to the show.
Thank you so much.
I think we had such amazing, important, valuable lessons. And we wish you the best of luck, your best of career, and best of wishes for your life ahead. We hope to keep seeing you rise and shine. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the time. And I had so much fun talking to you. And you keep doing the good work, too, of amplifying women's voices.
Absolutely. I'll do that.
Awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode where we learned how game changers like Mel are redefining what it means to be a role model. Greatness is within reach, and together we can create a brighter, more inclusive future. See you next week to hear someone that leaves no stones unturned.